Hey everyone, it's Types, and today we're going to be taking a look at some new cards from Supercharged Breaker. These are the first cards revealed from the set, which will make up part of our Surging Spark set in November, the international set. And just one thing about Pocket, I'll say Pokemon DCG Pocket will not be getting these cards. The cards are completely different, except for maybe the art. Currently, some of the arts are the same, but they might just be filler arts. We'll see. But anyways, Supercharged Breaker here is focused around, I guess, Tera Pikachu EX, which you are seeing here, as well as some other Pokemon. I was talking with Uncommon Fossil about this, and because we're getting Tera Pikachu EX, or I mean, we've gotten Pikachu EX in the past, we might not be getting Raichu EX, but that's not confirmed or anything. Certainly is possible, and I'm pretty sure we have not seen Raichu EX, but we certainly have seen Raichus this era, right? Oh yeah, we saw one in 151, obviously. Might have seen some others, but anyways, Pikachu EX here is the first card, Tera, and not just Tera, it is Stellar, meaning it has an attack for 3 different types of energy. And for Grass, Lightning, Metal, you do Topaz Bolt, which does 300 damage. Discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. But it has this insane ability here. It is a Tera, but it has this insane ability. If this Pokemon has full HP and would be knocked out by damage from an attack, it isn't knocked out and its HP becomes 10. But this is really easy to heal up with Penny. So this card seems kind of insane because you can Penny loop this and then you're like invincible pretty much. So I feel like this card's really, really good, this ability. The attack is not great. I mean, 300 basic is good, but obviously it's not a very payable 3. The lightning is not hard to get on. You have electric generator. The metal is kind of hard. And the grass isn't actually that hard either. You could do Ogre Pond Energy Switch, I think is the best way. You could do Gardenia's Vigor. There are some different ways, but that is definitely payable, but it's not like super payable. You just do discard all the energy and will not be getting knocked out, presumably, unless your opponent pulls off something like Roaring Moon EX, or which will be able to instantly knock you out, which you could stop through Mist Energy. But and it just says discard 3 energy from this Pokemon, so you can choose which energies you want to discard. You could get like 6 on it and then discard 3, then be able to attack again the next turn. And so you could keep the Mist Energy on, but obviously it's not helping you power up your attack. And then also, your opponent could soften you up somehow. I guess like Frostlass, though that might not work. It depends on like ordering and stuff. And then also it could be done through like Halucha, but again that's kind of awkward because that pings the bench. There are ways to soften you up though, but they're not particularly easy. So Pikachu EX I definitely think will be a card that we're going to see play. I mean, it seems pretty solid, but it is kind of awkward as well, and it only has a stellar attack. Currently in standard, and we haven't seen the Stellars see much play internationally. Well, that's not exactly true. We haven't seen most of them see that much play. We have seen Trapgo see play, but mostly for its first attack. You can use the second attack. It is usable, but not really being played that much. Like in this list here, for example, you cannot power up the stellar attack here. So that is definitely an issue of this card, but even in a control deck as a very strong wall, it is quite good. So that's definitely a thing you want to consider. Within control, it's like a very powerful stall option for one turn, even better than something with a certain amount of HP, but keep in mind you can be instantly knocked out or things like that. Things can go wrong. Poison will knock you out, so keep that in mind. Then we have Magnemite, we have Magneton, Magnezone. Oh, I guess I should have talked about this with Pikachu EX. So Magnezone here is nothing special. It does 80 for 3 and confuses and stops him from retreating. Or we can do an 80 for 4 and can't attack with this attack next turn. And the first attack's, I guess, the more interesting one. Confusion, stopping retreat is like kind of annoying, but it's also not that good. But what we're here looking at is the Magneton with its ability Overvolt Discharge. Once during a turn, you can attach up to 3 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Lightning Pokemon any way you like. If you use this ability, this Pokemon is knocked out. Also, I don't know why it says once during a turn. I can't think of any situation where that would actually come up because, I mean, you knock yourself out. It's not like you're not even there anymore. You could recover yourself and you can still use the ability as well. So this ability could power up Pikachu EX and might be good. Obviously, knocking yourself out isn't good, but this is not Fortress EX. It's much better. I mean, it accelerates less energies and 2 more limited Pokemon types, but the energy types it's accelerating are much more free. So you could pair this with Galvantula EX, but I think with Pikachu EX it could be good. 300 damage is really good. Not one-shotting everything, but you know what is one-shotting everything? Essentially is going to be 330. You go first, your opponent does whatever. No, actually, trying to think of a good way. You could go second, your opponent gets Charizard EX into play but doesn't knock you out. Then you could knock yourself out and then go down on Prizes Defiance Band and take a knockout that way. So that could be good. Though I don't know. I don't necessarily love it if you're a slower control-y style deck. You do have this powerful attacking option, but knocking yourself out isn't great. It's okay. You can certainly afford to do it like once. And there are times when it's good that you can activate like Counter Catcher and things like that. When I say control style, I don't necessarily mean actually control, but it could just be a slower deck. Iron Thorns EX is pretty control-y. It's not exactly a full control deck, but it definitely has control elements. A Pikachu EX, I think, will have control elements here. At least stall elements in the form of like Mist Energy and then Penny. I feel like Penny's an obvious inclusion in the deck for a healing, really powerful healing card. But the Magneton is a nice card. We've actually seen this card before. This is the only card that we're going to be looking at that is not brand new, but it is a good card. It is a pre-release promo. I don't remember. What are they? Oh, no, I think it's Gouging Fire and DD, which we have seen just as a pre-release promo, I believe, and which is not like I will talk about it later. And then Chimpao, which we have not really seen. We saw like part of the card, and I believe it has an on-play ability, but we don't really know what it does. But there is Magneton here, which will, as I said, be a pre-release promo and is pretty cool. Of course, this is just talking about standard. In other formats, it could be good as well. But and we have seen Magneton knock itself out and expanded as well before. But this is definitely a solid ability that might be opening up. As I said, it could be used Galvantula EX. Certainly could be used in like Brydon EX decks. You might have issues powering up your attackers. I mean, it's not like that bad, but you might have issues if you like run out of energy in the late game or miss off of your electric generators and give you an important prize. I feel like isn't that bad in that deck because you're all two prizers essentially, but it could be an issue because well you know you have Raiding Greninja. I'm not super familiar with the deck, but giving up one prize doesn't feel too bad, but also it's all basics as well, so getting evolution might not be very easy to get. And then, also Magneton there's like a cool Magneton control card, which is like fun, but it doesn't really have much synergy with this. Then we got Trap Ghost. This is another pretty interesting Pokemon, 120 HP basic with 2 retreat, which is meaningful here. And its attack here, Prism Charge. It can do 100 for 3 as well, which is okay, but nothing very special. Prism Charge, though, search your deck for up to 3 basic energy, all of different types, and attach them to your Tera Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. This is kind of like the the Joltik, which can power up Galvantula EX, or what types is it? What types are Terapagos? No, yeah, it is the Trapghost EX types as well, but it is useful some, but it has 30 HP. This accelerates to, and it can be used in other decks, but Trapghost is really nice for powering up Tera Pokemon, including Tera Pokemon like Dragapult EX or maybe like an Ogerpon or something. I don't know. But it's mostly here for, of course, the Stellar Pokemon. And it is a cool card as well. I do like the art. I feel like it's just like, I feel like Trapinch is a fun Pokemon. But you have to get different types of entities, which might not be what you want to do. And it also is like an attack. And it's kind of like TM Turbo Energize, which is an attack getting 2 types of basic energy and attack, or 2 basic energies, which could be of the same type, and accelerating them to, I believe, your bench Pokemon any way you like, or is it to the same one? No, I think it's to the same one. No, it is anyway. Like, I don't know what I'm thinking is the same one then, but you attach them anywhere. It's similar, but it's less energies, which is obviously worse. It can be the same type, which is a little better, but not that much better, specifically for these Tera Pokemon. But then also, the really interesting thing about the TMs, is they're searchable off of Arven, which gives Arven more value. I feel like TM Turbo Energize is a card that could see play. I mean, it's not like it doesn't see any play, but it doesn't see that much. What is he's playing? Yeah, Iron Thorns, and then also this is he's playing like pseudo control deck. So it is an okay card when you have a lot of like tankiness and HP, but not necessarily what you're looking for. Trap Ghost is a single prizer, which is nice, but I feel like it's worse than TM Turbo Energize. It's not a bad card, though. I think Trap Ghost is definitely a fun card, just not quite good enough. We have a supporter, Cyrano, here. I think it's how you say this, and it says search for up to 3 Pokemon EX, reveal and put them into your hand, shuffle your deck. Of course, you can only play 1 supporter per turn. This is interesting as it's a Pokemon search supporter, which generally don't see that much play because, I mean, Pokemon search is generally done through items, but that could also be just how cards are printed. But I made a video talking about the supporter, like landscape/metagame, and a big thing was that you need supporters that draw you cards, and I believe that EX and Standard mostly don't draw you cards. That's not entirely true. I think I was talking about it at some other point, not on video, and I was like, oh, it's it's not going to be getting much value because it's not drawing cards. It's not getting EXs that draw cards. That's not true. There's Mew EX and there's Squawkabilly EX. There might be some others that draw with like abilities. So it's a solid Pokemon, and there are of course evolutions. I don't know which EX evolutions draw cards. I'm trying to think, and I can't think of any off the top of my head with their like abilities. You have something like Blissey EX, which draws. Oh, a Goldungo EX would draw, but a lot don't have very good abilities. So you generally don't need. Well, that's not true. Pidgeot EX also has a really good ability. So I feel like you could play this in Charizard Pidgeot or something, but also, how do you get this into your hand? You'd probably get it with Pidgeot EX. At that point, you don't obviously need another one. Charizard EX is nice, but you don't need like 3 Charizard EXs. So I feel like this card is limited in use cases, but it is a good card and theoretically could be quite strong. Then we actually have a TM card here, Technical Machine Fluorite, and it says it needs to be attached to a Pokemon. It does not need to be attached to any specific type, but for Grass, Water, Psychic, oh, and then the tool gets discarded as well. You discard all energy from this Pokemon and then heal all damage from each of your Tera Pokemon. This feels way too specific. It's an attack that heals, but I mean, at this point, there are other attacks that heal, I think. They heal like all the damage. I'm not super familiar with most of them, but there is a Blissey, which heals all the damage off, which is kind of good. But then generally, I feel like this is like way too expensive, right? And then also, it's not healing necessarily the Pokemon you need it to heal. In some decks, it is like kind of good. Like Dragapult, you actually could get value, but then they might just boss up the Dragapult and hit it again, in which case, like what's the point? And then also the attack cost obviously is the big issue here. Grass, Water, Psychic, it's again not completely unpayable, kind of like the other Terra attacks, but its value is mediocre and its cost is really high, and then you discard all the energy too. So you can't like you could put this on your attacker, but then they lose all their energy, which isn't good. So I think this card is really bad, unfortunately. One really interesting thing to note about it, though, it is the first technical machine we're seeing in quite a while. So, yeah, I think it's the first one. Crisis Punch was the most recent one, which was that last year? That was not last year. That was this year. That was like at the beginning of this year. And yeah, in like January, but it's gonna rotate. So this is the first technical machine with an H regulation mark, which is really cool. I'm really excited to see this technical machine in play. Yeah, there are some like old ones which are super weird. I don't know if they're all super weird, but they're kind of weird. They're still kind of weird. Let's be honest. Like what is this card? But yeah, I think this is kind of fun, but obviously not very strong. Could be good in some deck that like hasn't come out yet, but right now it's not very good. Then we have 2 insane stadiums. Well, I don't know if insane is the right word, but they're really interesting. The first one, Amped Amphitheater here, is cool, saying each basic Pokemon in play gets 30 more HP. This is useful for, of course, tanky basic decks, potentially stall or control style decks. I don't know if it's necessarily a fun card. And of course, if your opponent bumps the stadium, just like if they remove a tool, then you lose the HP. So Lost Vacuum can get rid of this or get rid of the tool. You can't get rid of both though, so you could stack this to give yourself 80 more HP on basic Pokemon. I almost said this was good with Trapinch EX, but it's not because you need the big bench. But it is useful in some decks. Not exactly sure what those decks are, but big basics are certainly good right now. They're not like super broken, but they're pretty good. And the Stadium is a nice addition to those decks. I don't know exactly how much it fixes the math, but I feel like it is good. But of course, it can be bumped and easier than removing a tool. Removing a tool, there's only a few ways to do. Removing stadiums, I mean, you could play any stadium to just bump this one. The other stadium here, though, is really cool in my opinion. The maximum HP of all Stage 2 Pokemon is reduced by 30. This is something I feel like we haven't seen before. I'm not sure, but reducing HP of Pokemon is definitely a pretty interesting idea. And I feel like it will be pretty good, right? It allows you to, I mean, we were talking about Pikachu EX not hitting enough to one-shot Stage 2 EXs. If you have some damage buff, it would be, but without it, it's not. Oh, also you could use the Zapdos to boost your damage, which is cool, and it is a Tera, so you can expand your bench. Yeah, that's the only Tera here. I think there's another one, but, oh no, there's 2 more. But Pikachu EX can, boost its damage, or if you reduce your opponent's HP, then it also works. So you can do 300, which will one-shot Charizard EX, or Dragapult EX if the stadium's in play. This stadium's pretty interesting. I don't know exactly how good it's going to be, but it essentially allows you to, like, kind of does damage. It's not exactly what it does, but that's kind of what it does. So this is a cool stadium. You could catch your opponents off guard or, like, hit into them and then play the stadium, and then just get a prize or get two prizes off of playing a stadium, which is pretty interesting. This one's cool. I do like the art as well. I feel like I don't know. I just like these arts just in general. But yeah, the stadium is definitely a really cool card and a pretty interesting concept. I'm interested in seeing what Pokemon's going to do with it in the future. But this card with like reducing HP, but this is really difficult for some decks to deal with in certain specific matchups. Then we have this A-Spec item, which is really cool as well. Miracle Intercom. It's an A-Spec, and it says put two supporters from your discard into your hand. It's like Versus Seeker. It's a little bit better, but it's not twice as good as Versus Seeker. Versus Seeker gets one supporter from your discard into your hand, but you don't need two supporters in your turn. You can't play both of them unless you're doing something really wacky. So, I mean, I feel like Miracle Intercom is not that much better than Versus Seeker, but obviously we're talking standard, not expanded, so Versus Seeker, if you don't know, was really good. As I said, I don't know if I said directly what it does, but it recovered a supporter from discard into your hand as an item. It kind of acts as a supporter search card in the late game when you played a lot of supporters, and it's really strong. Is it A-Spec caliber? Because getting the second supporter back is nice, but it's kind of just like Pal Pad. It goes to your hand, but it could get Iono'd away, and your opponent now knows that you have it. You could pop this card, and they have no idea what supporter you're going to get back. You can get back anything, but the other supporter, if you play it the next turn, they know that it's coming. Or if they don't, or if you don't, they still know it's like that you got that supporter. So Miracle Intercom, I feel like the second supporter doesn't have that much value. That does not mean this card is bad though. Just acting kind of like Versus Seeker. I feel like Versus Seeker was good because there's a lot of discard synergy, but discard synergy, like, it's not that big of big of a thing in standard right now. It's not like it's a non-factor, but I don't know how good the supporter is. In the video where I talked about the supporter landscape, there are only a few supporters that see play. I mean, there's like 10, 15, 20 maybe. I don't know. There's like a lot that do see some play, but it's not like a big mix of different supporters. It's like I'm playing 4 caps of this supporter, 3 caps of this supporter, 2 caps of this supporter, and like that's it. So only like 3 different supporters, maybe 4. There could be more, of course, but generally not as much. And Control does play lots of different types of supporters, but I feel like you don't want this in Control. I mean, it's not like you don't want it, but there are better cards in Control, better A specs. I feel like we'll see, but there are some really good. I mean, a lot of the A specs are pretty good for Control. Then we also here's this. These are things that are coming out. Oh no, never mind. The battle partners stuff, which is the Otis mechanic, will be next year in Japan. So yeah. Anyways, wait, battle partners. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the other cards from this set. I don't know if Battle Partners is the international set or the Japanese set, but we need to take a look at some more cards. So we got Milotic EX. This card is pretty cool. It has an ability, Sparkling Scales prevent all damage and effects done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Tera Pokemon's attacks. Tera Pokemon, I talked about them, of course, a bunch through this video. There were some new ones, but there's also Charizard EX, Dragapult EX, the Ogerpon EXs, but not all decks attack with Tera Pokemon. Not all multi-prize decks attack with Tera Pokemon. Miraidon EX is a pretty good attacker. Roaring Moon EX. It does stop effects of attacks as well, which is pretty cool. But that doesn't matter that much, so let's be honest. It matters some for like Dragapult EX and maybe some others, but it's a nice ability here and a very solid wall. Also, 270 HP is pretty solid. It's nothing like absolutely insane for a Stage 1 EX, but it's good. So that is something that you can kind of lean back on if your opponent's I almost didn't ride on the X. If they're playing that, that'll stop it, but it won't because they hit you for weakness. Roaring Moon EX, it also doesn't stop because they can use the effect of their attack to one-shot you. Then Raging Bull EX could also one-shot you. What are the decks being played right now? So it's like Walling Charizard and Dragapult. Maybe could help against Regidrago, but maybe not. So maybe it doesn't matter that much. Like Lugia, I guess it could help against. I don't know. It's certainly a solid ability, though, that'll be really useful for stall-based decks where you're trying to wall off your opponent's Pokemon. You do have an attack as well for Watercolorless, colorless 160, and your opponent's active's down asleep. This is like so generic, but it's here, so that's certainly fine. But you probably will never be using that attack, I don't think. The decks you're playing it in probably can't even power it up, but it's not like completely useless either. It's certainly an okay attack. With Tapu Koko here, it can search for lightning Pokemon and put them into your hand, which is not terrible, but not what you're looking for in standard right now. But then you have the attack prize counter, lightning colorless 90, but if you are down on prizes, you hit 180. That's pretty good. 180 is certainly not a, I mean, it's a good amount of each or damage to do, and can be one-shotting some Pokemon. Honestly, the Pokemon that you're one-shotting that are two prizes, you'd one-shot even if you hit 90 because they're weak to you, which are Squawkabilly EX, Lumineon V. I guess Mew EX is something that you wouldn't hit for weakness that you can one-shot here, but it seems niche. Like, it's not a great weakness. It's not a bad weakness to be hitting Lugia V Star, Palkia V Star, Origin Form Palkia V Star, and it's not the best weakness. It's an okay weakness, but yeah, it's a thing that you can be hitting that is okay. There's another card with an attack similar to this. I'm trying to think what it is. It might have come out in. Is it a Mewtwo? I think it. No, that's a different Mewtwo. There's a card with prize counter though. It might have come out in this past set. I don't remember, and it hasn't like seen much play though. But keep in mind this attack is a thing, and if you want it, it's here. Then there's Togepi, Togekiss, and Togekiss. No, Togepi, Togetic, and Togekiss. And this has an attack that's very generic, and it does have one retreat as opposed to free, which it sometimes has, which would of course be better. But then you have this ability here, Wonder Kiss, whenever your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out, you flip a coin. If you take an extra prize, it does not stack, but what's this? Like, come on, Pokemon. This like does not seem fun at all, and it seems pretty solid. I mean, like it's kind of awkward to get a stage 2 up, but this is so game changing. It can just win you games. I mean, like taking extra prize is a really big deal. So even in like this is insane. I feel like this ability it's not like super broken, but it seems really annoying. I don't like this ability design wise. I feel like it's pretty bad. There was a solid Togekiss in standard, which like draws cards. It draws till 8 with its ability, but after your turn's done and after you attacked and took prizes, which in this case actually has anti-synergy with this Togekiss if you take extra prizes. But this is a very strong ability if you can get it to work. Obviously, it is a coin flip. There's no way to increase the odds in standard, so that's like an issue for this card. I don't know if it'll see play. I certainly hope it does not see play, but would not be shocked if it does. If you're using this ability multiple times throughout the game, you're probably getting yourself an extra prize. If you get 2 extra prizes, you would presumably win the game. It doesn't mean that you actually you took 2 knockouts of 2 prizes and just won. It could be that, but it means that you're now 2 prizes up, and unless your opponent has gotten off to a way better start than you, or the matchups are really bad, you probably should be winning this game. This Togekiss is not a fun design, but it is a card that Pokemon. It's unique, but it's certainly not a card I'm looking forward to playing against here. And then we have Dino Zweilous, which both mill. The basic mills 1, stage 1 mills 2, and Hydreigon EX mills 3 for Darkness Colorless and does 200, which is pretty solid. Also looks super awesome. I don't know, I just like this Hydreigon art here and like the colors. But we have Obsidian for Psychic Darkness Metal Colorless 130 and 130 to 2 your points bench Pokemon. Also, why is the name just Obsidian? That seems kind of weird, but I guess it's not that weird. But anyway, it does 130 to 3. That's like good. It's like Kyurem levels of good. It's a little bit better than Kyurem levels of good. Just 20 more to each, but cannot trigger 3 bench Pokemon as well. So it's okay. I mean, obviously it's really good for you can pull it off, but also all Tera Pokemon are immune to bench damage. So I don't think this is that good. I mean, I honestly feel like it doesn't need a colorless as well. This is also the first stellar attack we've seen that needs a colorless energy, which is kind of interesting. A colorless in addition to the 3 types. This is not very payable, I feel like. Psychic doesn't seem like... I feel like none of these types... Well, you can Dark Patch. It is a Darkness Pokemon, so you can Dark Patch here. Psychic, I don't know. I mean, you, of course, have the Terra support, the Stellar support, specifically with like Crispin and Sparkling Crystal. They can... I mean, they're not necessarily just used for... or mostly used for Stellar Pokemon, but they can be used for that. But I think Hydreigon EX is okay. It is stage 2 and has awkward value, but could be good. Then we have Tatsugiri EX here, which is pretty cool. It's our second Dragon Stellar Pokemon, which is pretty fun. The other one was Alolan Executor EX. Yep. Then we have Sneaky Pump for Fire Water. It does 100. That's 2 effects. That's solid. I mean, that could be what you want. Also, 160 HP is really low. I just looked at that. You don't have any weakness, but you are really low, so that's HP. That's not great. But then you have Cinnabar Lure. Also, again, I like the art here. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I'm just in like a good mood or something, but I do like the art here. Cinnabar Lure, though, for Fire, Water, Darkness. Look at the top 10 cards of your deck. Choose any number of Pokemon you find there and put them onto your bench. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. That is a super interesting attack, allowing you to just put Pokemon straight into play. That's something we don't really see. Is this good? No, it's not particularly good. It's really funny. I don't think it's good though. Obviously, it's awkward to pay, and then you're presumably just getting one-shotted. And at best, you're getting one-shotted. If they gust up the Pokemon that you need, that's also bad. This could be used for some like weird, funny combos and shenanigans, and maybe some control deck, but it's awkward to set up. Like it's not impossible, but it's awkward. There's no great way to get these energies on. Fire energy, you could use Magma Basin, but not here because it's not a fire Pokemon. So Tatsugiri EX is a fun Pokemon, but I don't think it's good enough. It's funny. The first attack does offer some utility, but it's not really an attack you want to be using all the time. This second attack is really weird. It could be fun, but I don't think it's quite all the way there. Then we have Slack Off, which has this super bizarre attack. It's not like good, but I just want to talk about it real quick. Take it easy, heal 60 from this Pokemon. It only has 60 health. Like, why are we healing 60? It's got 60 health. So if it has taken 60 damage, it's presumably knocked out. And then during your next turn, this Pokemon can't retreat, which is also just like so weird. It's not like it's a pivot. I don't know. It's just like a super bizarre attack that's like, it's not very good. Then I do not like the art on this Slack Off. This one is kind of weird. But and then we have Vigoroth, which is super boring, and Slaking EX with an ability Slacking Off, which you've seen a lot of abilities like this, or at least one on Slacking before. If your opponent has no Pokemon EX or V in play, this Pokemon can attack, but let's be honest, most of the time they will have those in play. Even in single prize decks, they will play a Pokemon EX or V. If you look at Ancient Box, they're playing, I don't know, Pheasantipity EX, Pekaron EX. I don't think Pheasantipity EX, but they can certainly play Pekaron EX. And then if you look at like other single prize decks probably play Squawkabilly, but they don't all, and they won't necessarily play them, especially if they see that you are playing this. But Great Swing, 280 for 2 colors, discard an energy from this Pokemon. This is okay. It's not a bad attack, but it's not a great attack. I feel like it is like payable. You could use new upper energy as well, but you probably use double turbo, and then you're hitting 260, which isn't quite as much as you want to hit. You really do want to hit that 280 number. You do have 340 HP, which is nice. You have 4 retreat, which isn't nice. Well, you could use heavy baton, but I feel like you don't really want to be using heavy baton. I feel like Slacking EX just isn't really that good. It's not bad. It's pretty mediocre. Its ability is certainly something that hurts it, but it's not gonna completely, ruin it. But it is something that hurts it. Then we have this supporter here. Actually, no, let's talk about Colder Berry first. It's a tool whenever the Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an attack from your opponent's, in this case, Darkness type Pokemon. This Pokemon takes 6 less damage from that attack, and after Weakness and Resistance, then you discard it. We've seen a bunch of tools like this, and now it's all about confirmed. We're going to get it for all the types. That may or may not include Colorless and or Dragon, we'll see, but it's certainly going to be all the other types, and yeah, I don't believe we've seen Colorless or Dragon. I think it's Fire, Psychic, Darkness, and Water. Fire and Psychic or in Stellar Crown, and then Darkness obviously coming out in Surging Sparks, same thing with Water. These are like kind of okay. Darkness is certainly a solid type to be stopping. Looking at the metagame, Charizard's good, and Roaring Moon or Roaring Moon EX, Roaring Moon EX or Roaring Moon Dex are good. They're not like amazing or everywhere, but Charizard plus Roaring Moon. Wait, where's Roaring Moon? Turbo Roaring. I don't know how these decks are exactly worded, but I feel like it's a good chunk in the metagame. Certainly something pretty meaningful that you can be trying to wall it. I think it might be the best type to wall. Maybe Dragon would actually be better if you look at decks 3, 4, and 2, 3, and 4. They are all Dragon decks, so Dragon is a very good type right now. But let's be honest, walling a little bit of damage off of Raging Bull Ogerpon isn't going to be doing too much, but it is still a nice thing to have. Then we have Jasmine's Gaze as the last supporter we're going to be taking a look at. This says during your opponent's next turn, each of your Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon after applying weakness and resistance, and it includes new Pokemon that come into play. I don't know why it says that, but it says that, which I kind of assumed. I feel like that's not like the thing that I'm like, does it stop that? But it stops. It does what you'd expect pretty much. And so taking 30 less damage is okay, but it's not like that good. I mean, taking less damage is nice, but I feel like this isn't like that strong of a card. It's not a terrible supporter. Might have some niche use cases, but definitely one that I don't think is going to be very good. But anyways, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all the good stuff. Join the channel as well if you want to support me. That's a great way to do it. But I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.